Welcome to Lotus Tale Studios. I hope this story brings you comfort and reminds you that even in darkness, there is light. If you enjoy this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to help our stories reach more hearts. Thank you for being here. My family was desperately poor. We had only a small patch of rocky land that barely yielded enough to feed us. My father worked that land from dawn to dusk, but no matter how hard he tried, we could never have enough. My grandparents were old and frail, and my two uncles were lazy men who spent their days drinking and gambling. They brought nothing to the household but complaints. My youngest sister and I were born in the same year. We were the only girls, and my grandparents treated us like burdens they couldn't wait to be rid of. That winter the cold was brutal. We had gone days without proper food. Seeing the family on the verge of starvation, my father went to the city to find work. While he was gone, a merchant came to our village. He offered 3 silver coins for me. My family sold me without hesitation. On the day I left, my mother wept, but her tears felt empty. She gave me her only treasure, a jade hairpin that had been passed down through generations. I took 1 silver coin and gave it to my mother, begging her to use it to keep my younger siblings alive. The snow fell thick that day. My father hadn't returned from the city. My mother stood in the doorway with my siblings, watching as the cart took me away. I looked back until I could no longer see them through the white curtain of snow. 12 girls were taken from our village and the surrounding areas that winter. We were all around the same age, all sold by families too poor or too heartless to keep us. The merchant fed us, which was more than most of us had known at home. We traveled for weeks, and by the time we reached the capital city of Jinghua, spring had arrived. The merchant sold us one by one. I was purchased by the Lin family, a household of some standing in the Western District. I heard the master was a government official of the 6th rank. I was assigned to work in the second courtyard, serving the second mistress. My duties were simple: sweeping, cleaning, and running errands. The Lin household was orderly and well managed. Besides the first wife, there was one concubine who had once been a maid. The family had 3 sons, all away studying at a famous academy. They returned home only twice a year. The sons were all handsome, but the eldest, the young master Lin Chan, was breathtaking. He looked like something from a painting, elegant and refined beyond measure. The eldest daughter, Yu Hua, was 15 and carried herself with quiet dignity, though her temper could be sharp. The second daughter, Liling, was the concubine's child. She was only 9 years old, round-faced and cheerful, always giggling. She was slow in her understanding, and because of this, everyone in the household doted on her and protected her. The Lin family treated their servants fairly. I had been there for a year and had gained some weight. Every month we were paid a small wage, and on holidays we received bonuses. I saved every coin I earned, dreaming of the day I might send money home to my family. For someone like me, these days felt like a blessing. The work was not difficult, and in my spare time I learned to embroider and sew. The eldest daughter's head maid was kind and taught us to read when she had time. I learned slowly but steadily. Then one day, I heard that one of the girls who had been sold with me had been beaten to death by her master. I realized then how fortunate I was. The Lin family was good to me. I was living a life I had never imagined possible. But disaster came swiftly. In the year I turned 16, I don't know what crime the master committed, but the Lin family's assets were seized by the authorities. All family members over the age of 17 were imprisoned. Those younger received lighter sentences. The night before the house was raided, the first mistress returned all the servants' contracts and gave each of us 10 silver coins. She gave us a chance to live. When the Lin family fell, most of the servants fled immediately. I held the money I had saved over the years and prepared to return to my village. But then I looked at Liling, the second daughter, now 11 years old and still so innocent. My heart softened. The Lin family's home was gone. She and I had nowhere to go. She could no longer use her old name. I gave her a new one. I called her Liling, which means beautiful belle. She would be my younger sister. My name was Mingyu. The Lin family was now in prison. Even if I used all my money, I wasn't sure I could help them. But I had to try to keep Liling alive. To survive, we needed food and shelter. I was strong and not afraid of hard work. I had learned to read and do simple accounting. I rented a small boat and started a food business on the Jinghua River. I sold soup noodles and steamed buns. In summer, I sold pickled vegetables and cold dishes. In winter, I made hot meat pies and warm broths. After paying the boat rental, I earned nearly 40 silver coins in the first year. The Lin family's case dragged on. A year passed with no resolution. I sewed warm quilted robes for them and brought food and wine to the prison. I took Liling with me. She wore the red cotton jacket I had made for her, holding my hand and skipping beside me. The prison was no longer as heavily guarded as it had been the year before. I spent 2 silver coins and the head jailer let us inside. The prison was dark and smelled terrible. Liling gripped my hand tightly, her eyes wide with fear. I patted her hand and said, "It's all right. Your sister Mingyu is here." She gave me a small smile, and 2 tiny dimples appeared at the corners of her mouth. The whole family was locked in one cell. I almost didn't recognize them. The mistress, the master, and the concubine had all become gaunt and dark. Of the 3 young masters, only 2 were present. The eldest, Lin Chun, was missing. I didn't know where he had gone and I didn't dare ask. The head jailer opened the cell door for us. We had half an hour. Straw was spread in the corner where they slept. Liling looked at her parents and didn't recognize them at first. She hid behind me, peeking out. After a long moment, her father called her old name. She finally stepped forward, crying. The whole family wept when they saw her. The master didn't remember me. With so many servants, how could he? But the mistress recognized me. "You are the maid Mingyu," she said, her voice weak. "Mother, she is my sister Mingyu," Liling said, holding my hand. "Master, mistress, please forgive me. I didn't dare let the second daughter use her real name. I feared the authorities might find her. I had to give her my surname and a new name." The mistress began to cry. "If not for you, I don't know if our child would still be alive. We owe you everything." The master's eyes filled with tears. "Who would have thought our own eldest daughter hasn't visited once? Yet a former maid comes to see us. The mistress returned your contract long ago. You are no longer our servant. What is wrong with being Liling's sister? If the Lin family is ever restored, you will be a daughter of this house." I didn't want to be a daughter of this house. I just wanted to go home and see my family. If I could continue my boat business, that would be enough for me. "Master, mistress, please don't blame the eldest daughter. I went to her husband's house, but I couldn't see her. I heard she had just given birth and was in seclusion. Her husband's family, fearing it would upset her, never told her the truth. The mistress of that household sent someone to tell me never to bring Liling to their door again. A few days later, they moved to another province. Even if the eldest daughter wanted to visit, the distance was too great, and she had a newborn child to care for. I didn't tell them that I had heard the eldest daughter had wept until she collapsed when she learned of the family's fate, and that her husband had taken advantage of her unconscious state to move her away. People are just trying to survive. How could I blame her? After a few more words, our time was up. I tried to lead Liling away, but she cried, wanting to take everyone with her. It took much coaxing to get her to leave. Outside, she asked why she didn't see her eldest brother. I didn't know what had happened to the first young master, Lin Chun. He had been the most brilliant scholar, achieving the highest honors in the imperial examinations at a young age. He was the pride of the family, but now he had simply vanished. The master wouldn't speak of it, and I knew better than to ask. I took Liling back to the small courtyard we rented. We shared 2 rooms, one for sleeping and one for cooking. Another family lived on the other side of the courtyard. The husband, a peddler, was a kind man, and his wife was skilled with embroidery. I could sew but couldn't embroider, so I had Liling learn from her. Any leftover food from my sales always went to Liling or to the neighbors' children. I was 17 now, old enough to be married anywhere. Making a living on the river wasn't easy. Other women faced harassment, and for someone like me with a younger sister to protect, it was even more difficult. But the river had its own rules. Once you paid the protection fee, someone would watch over you. I wasn't afraid of hard work. I was only afraid of trouble. One night there was a knock at the door. Liling and I were alone in Jinghua. Who could be looking for us this late? "Who is it?" I called out. "My surname is Lin," a low, pleasant male voice replied. I quickly got dressed and opened the door. The man stepped inside sideways and I closed the door behind him. He turned his back to me and stood by the bed, looking at Liling. Our small room was divided by a curtain. He had pulled it aside to look at her sleeping form. I added firewood to the stove, boiled water, and poured him a cup of tea. When he stepped out from behind the curtain, the lamplight was dim, but I could still see him clearly. He looked very much like the mistress, with the same elegant features but sharper. He had natural phoenix eyes that were captivating even without a smile, a straight nose and a well-defined jaw. There was a small dark mole beneath his lower lip. His presence was cold and distant, yet somehow alluring. He was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. He was still wearing his cloak when he sat down and accepted the tea. His hands were elegant and refined. He was a truly perfect person. His eyes were deep black, and when he looked at you, it felt as if he could see straight through to your soul. I looked at his clothing. It was fine brocade, expensive. If he wasn't poor, why hadn't he saved the rest of the Lin family? But I didn't dare ask. I just stood aside, waiting for him to speak. You have courage. No wonder you were able to protect Liling so well. His voice was low and calm. I didn't dare meet his eyes. I kept my head down and said nothing. Take this. Tomorrow, find a way out of the city and deliver it to Abbot Minghui at the Clouded Peak Temple. This matter is extremely important. Be careful. If I had any other choice, I wouldn't come to you. His voice carried a note of urgency and helplessness. I hadn't wanted to accept, but hearing the desperation in his voice, I gritted my teeth and took it. The object wrapped in cloth felt like a thin book. It was still warm from his body. Young master, take care of yourself. The whole family is waiting for you. For Liling's sake, for the Lin family's sake, I finally said it. He nodded and suddenly smiled, a dazzling expression like sunlight breaking through clouds. Aren't you afraid the Lin family and I are all terrible people? I only know the Lin family treated me well. That is enough. If not for them, I don't know where I'd be today. He nodded, turned and left. The Clouded Peak Temple was no ordinary place. It only opened its gates twice a month, on the 1st and 15th days. Tomorrow was neither. Just getting through the door would be difficult, let alone meeting the abbot. Early the next morning, I left Liling with the neighbor and went up Clouded Peak Mountain. Though it was called a mountain, it wasn't steep. I was used to physical labor, so the climb wasn't hard. At the temple gate, the main door was shut tight. I could hear chanting from within. I knocked several times before a young novice monk came out. He looked to be only 7 or 8 years old, fair and adorable. Seeing me, he pressed his palms together in a clumsy but earnest greeting. Benefactor, if you wish to offer incense, please return on the 15th day. He was so cute I wanted to pat his head, but I was afraid it was forbidden. I took 2 candied chestnuts from my pouch and offered them to him. I usually used these to coax Liling. He pressed his lips together, hesitating. I grabbed his small hand and placed them in his palm. I'm not here to offer incense. Please tell the abbot that his long-lost daughter has come to find him. I knew lying was wrong, but I had no choice. I had overheard a rumor that gave me this idea. Abbot Minghui, before he became a monk, was the brother of the late emperor. The current emperor had to call him royal uncle. Years ago, during a rebellion, the abbot's entire family had been killed, burned alive in their mansion. It was rumored that a nursemaid had escaped with his infant daughter, but despite years of searching, the child was never found. Heartbroken, the abbot renounced the world and became a monk. If that daughter were still alive, she would be about my age now. The little novice naturally didn't know the abbot's past, but he went inside to report. I had been bold enough to come this far. I was no longer afraid. Before long, a plump monk walked out. He had a round belly, a large nose with a red tip and fleshy cheeks. On anyone else this might look fierce, but on him it only looked friendly. He looked me up and down and smiled. Benefactor, how can you be certain you are the abbot's daughter? I wasn't her, so of course I couldn't be certain. Master, if the rumors are true, my story matches. Whether I'm real or not, only the abbot can tell. If I'm false, at least I can meet him. The monk tilted his head, looking at the little novice's puffed cheeks. He plucked the candy from the child's hand and popped it into his own mouth. The novice's eyes went wide. I patted his shoulder sympathetically. The monk waddled away and I followed. The abbot had just finished teaching scripture. and was waiting for me under a Bodhi tree in the back courtyard. It was deep winter, yet this tree was lush and green. If not for his shaven head and monk's robes, who would think he was a monk? His features were refined and gentle. He seemed wise and compassionate, and his age was hard to discern. I bowed deeply. This humble woman is guilty. Please forgive me, Abbot. Today's lie was a last resort. He seemed accustomed to disappointment. His expression didn't change. I took the bundle from my bag and handed it to him. He opened it, glanced inside and closed it again. Did he say anything else? His voice was clear and calm, soothing to hear. No. He must truly be in difficulty. If anything happens to him in the future, you may come find me. Benefactor. What is your name? Mingyu. I am a boat vendor selling food on the Jinghua River. Go well, young woman. Several months passed. The ice on the river melted and my business improved. It was rumored that the Grand Princess would be passing by boat on the 5th day of the 5th month. Liling insisted on going to sea. My business had to stop for the day anyway, so I took her. The Grand Princess was the Emperor's biological sister. Their father had doted on her, marrying her into wealth and even granting her the city of Jinghua as her fief. There were many rumors about her. It was said her husband kept a mistress, so she had him castrated. Afterward, she kept many handsome male consorts, living a life of pleasure. It was said anyone who caught her I could not escape. Because of this, handsome young men in Jinghua were rarely seen. Families sent their sons away to distant provinces as soon as they came of age, unless they intended to offer themselves to her. No one knew which rumors were true, but it was said even the emperor had to yield to her. Her power was absolute. We arrived early and got a good spot on the bridge. A princess's procession was naturally grand. There were 3 flower boats, each 3 stories high. The Grand Princess loved white silk. You only needed to see which boat was most shrouded in white to know she was there. That's the one in the middle, Liling observed, chattering excitedly. Besides palace maids and eunuchs, most of the people on the boat were handsome young men in various states of undress. The rumors about her keeping male consorts seemed true, but the princess herself was nowhere to be seen. As the boat drew closer, a gust of wind lifted the white silk veil. Elder brother, that's my elder brother. Liling suddenly cried out, pointing at the boat. I was horrified and quickly covered her mouth. By the time I looked back, the silk had fallen again, but not before several people had gasped. Even with just a glimpse, he was unmistakable. The princess wore a white gauze robe, barely concealing her form. She had a flower painted on her forehead, and her lips were bright red. And he was right beneath her, his chest exposed, his expression filled with shame. I could see his furrowed brows and trembling lashes. The princess reached to touch his face, but he turned away. In that moment he opened his eyes. We looked at each other. The moment stretched impossibly long, yet was heartbreakingly brief. Long enough for me to see the shame and fury in his eyes. Short enough that I couldn't find the small mole by his lips. He was a distinguished scholar, the top of the imperial examinations. Yet he was forced to submit to the Grand Princess. This must be worse for him than death. The man I saw that day and the man from that night were completely different. For him to endure this humiliation, he must have something more important than his own life to protect. I believed in him. I thought the days would pass as they always had, but I couldn't forget that look we shared. Liling was growing into a young woman. She had forgotten most of the characters she learned. I wanted to take her to the temple to study with the abbot, but I was afraid someone might discover her identity. If the first young master was truly exposed, I feared death would be his only path. The Grand Princess had opened an academy for teaching young women. I enrolled Liling there along with the neighbor's daughter. Though Liling was slow, her memory was excellent. Whatever she learned, she could recite and write down perfectly. I learned along with her. Gradually I could read simple books. It was then I realized one must read to understand the world. There were things in books I had never imagined. Knowledge truly does change everything. On a hot afternoon in the 7th month, I took Liling to the prison, bringing homemade rice dumplings, food and wine. Liling and I had made fans together to bring them. We also brought herbs and colored threads. They seemed better than our last visit. The mistress's voice was no longer strained, And the two young masters were using the dirt floor as paper and tree branches as brushes, studying every day. Even the concubine wasn't crying anymore. There seemed to be hope for the Lin family. I used the herbs to smoke out the cell and hung the rest on the door. Liling tied colored threads for them, and then we laid out the food. On the way here, I had warned Liling repeatedly not to mention seeing her eldest brother. If outsiders found out, he could be in mortal danger. She understood and didn't mention it. It wasn't that I feared the princess would discover his identity. She must have investigated him thoroughly before taking him. I was afraid his parents, unaware of the situation, would be overwhelmed with grief and do something drastic. He had subjected himself to such degradation surely to save his family. If they died of grief because of him, what would he do? Mingyu took me to the academy. I can read many books now. I wrote the characters on this fan. Father, look, isn't my writing beautiful? Liling said, clinging to her father's arm. He examined the fan carefully, nodding and praising her. My daughter is so accomplished. Your brothers must work even harder now. I liked the Lin family in part because of the master's attitude toward his daughters. He was strict with his sons but gentle with his daughters, loving them equally. The children he raised were generous and kind. Second brother, third brother, did you hear? If you don't work hard, your little sister will surpass you, Liling said proudly. This is all thanks to your sister Mingyu. She works so hard to raise you and even sends you to school. You must remember her kindness, the concubine said, tapping Liling on the forehead. My sister Mingyu is the best sister in the world. And I am her dearest little sister. Mother, look at the new undergarments Mingyu made for everyone. They're all soft cotton. She washed them clean, dried them in the sun, and kneaded them soft before sewing. One of the girls sold with me, Xiulan, was now a concubine in a wealthy household. She was sending someone back to her hometown. I found her and gave her clothes I had made for my family, along with 3 silver coins. A few days later, her messenger returned with a letter from my father. Ever since I sold myself, my grandparents had demanded the family assets be divided. Those silver coins were split among everyone. My parents received almost nothing. They had taken my younger siblings to the county seat, where my father worked at a grain shop. My mother did laundry. Though they didn't earn much, they rented a house and were surviving. With the money I sent, they could return to the village, buy land, and arrange a marriage for my brother. The Lin family was like a second life for me. If not for them, I might not be alive. I knew how to be grateful. When the Lin family faced disaster, all their friends and relatives turned away. Only I remained loyal. The mistress stroked my head. Master, if we survive this, let's have our son marry her. Where else could we find a young woman with such character? I didn't know which son she meant, but I felt unworthy of any of them. They were scholars who would become officials. They should marry young women from families of equal standing. Mistress, you absolutely must not. I do these things from my heart. If you can walk out of this prison, the young masters will surely become officials. How can they marry someone who was once a servant? If you truly wish to thank me, just treat me as you treat Liling. That is enough. I remained kneeling. I soon forgot what was said that day. By the time it was mentioned again, circumstances were entirely different. The 7th month was considered unlucky. If there was no business, I wouldn't go out at night. I closed early, put Liling to bed, and opened my chest to count my savings. If the Lin family was released, would the master resume his post? What if he couldn't? Where would they live? What would they eat? Could the young masters continue studying? And what would happen to the first young master, Lin Chan? I didn't dare think too deeply. I couldn't afford to buy a house, only rent a larger one. But I didn't have enough saved even for that. Perhaps I should start another business. The boat income was too small. I didn't know how many years it would take to support 2 scholars. I rested my head on my arms and fell asleep at the table. When I woke, I didn't know when he had arrived. He was sitting across from me. My arm was numb, and when I moved it, it felt like thousands of needles. I grimaced until the feeling returned. He just watched me silently. He smelled of wine. His white robe was open at the collar, revealing his chest. His hair was loose, his clothes disheveled. Perhaps he had drunk too much. The corners of his eyes were red, glistening. He looked like a spirit. I was 18, not old, not young, just at the age for marriage. But I had never been close to a man. My first real encounter was with this extraordinary person. Naturally, my face flushed and my heart pounded. "Why has the young master come today?" I asked awkwardly. "Do you have any colored thread? Tie one for me." He rubbed his temples, half conscious. I knew better than to argue with a drunk person. I found thread in my sewing basket and tied it around his wrist. He raised his arm to look. The sleeve slid down, revealing his forearm. On his pale skin were startling wounds, some new, some old. The new ones were still bleeding. The old ones had faded to white scars. I gasped, covering my mouth. He saw my expression and smiled faintly. "Scared?" He pulled open his collar. There wasn't an unblemished spot on his body. I stared at the wounds on his pale skin, feeling a sharp pain in my chest. "Do you know what I do every day? Do you know what a male consort is? Every day I drink medicine to endure her doing whatever she wants. I feel no pain. So what if I was the top scholar? I lost my dignity long ago. I'm just a corpse that even I despise. If not for. He must have been truly drunk, still bothered that Liling and I had seen him that day. I searched for medicine and brought warm water. The injuries on his body included bites, scratches, and whip marks. I was terrified. My hands trembled as I carefully applied the medicine. He wasn't as frail as he looked. His muscles were well defined and firm. He seemed in pain, tensing. Gradually I calmed down. I told him about our prison visit earlier. "Young master, you must have something important you must do. You have protected your family. Everything else I will handle. I will care for them. The simplest thing in this world is death. But living requires courage. A scholar's integrity is in his righteousness, his principles. But when hardship bites deep, the choice is made under pressure, that is also integrity. Since you made your choice, why harm yourself? You only need to know the people you love will never abandon you." Perhaps this was the benefit of reading. I could speak such words. He closed his eyes, half reclining, looking as if he were asleep. The wounds on his abdomen were the worst. His waist was slender. I don't know why, but I remembered my mother saying a man's waist must be sturdy to support a family. Thinking of it now was amusing. Though his waist was slim, it looked strong. "It's done. In a few days it will just be like this again. A waste of medicine." He sat up. I helped him put his robe back on. "Take care of yourself. Protect yourself above all." "How am I supposed to protect myself? This is the greatest compromise I can make," he said angrily. I was speechless. How had he convinced himself to become the princess's consort? How had he endured until now? He would rather suffer physical pain than lose his last shred of dignity. "I'm hungry. Make me something to eat. Is it all right to be back so late?" She gave me permission today. Told me to visit my family. What family do I have left? This is the only place I can come. I had just visited the prison, so there was no food at home. I caught a fish from the basin, cleaned it, and steamed it. He sat on the small stool Liling usually used, feeding the fire and watching me cook. I reheated leftover porridge and sliced some cured meat to stir fry. The portions were small. He ate everything. When I washed dishes, he stood beside me. "I want to start another business. When the master and mistress are released, if they can't resume their posts, I want to rent a larger house. The young masters will still need to study. The boat income is too small. I'm afraid it won't be enough." I told him my thoughts. He lowered his eyes. "Have you thought about me?" "Of course. I don't know what you're doing, but I know you can't escape your connection with the princess. If something happens, who can say what's right or wrong? I just hope you can escape safely." He smiled faintly. "What other trade do you want to do? This year was good. After expenses and sending money home, I have 70 silver coins. This isn't enough to rent even the most remote shop in Jinghua. I haven't decided yet. I won't go to the boat for the next few days. I'll look around and see if there are better options. I will think of a way for the money." "Don't. If you had money, you would have brought it out already. Just protect yourself." "Let me think. There must be a way." He looked at me with an unreadable expression. I felt unsettled by his gaze. He reached out and poked my forehead. "You're as ugly as ever." I clutched my forehead, blushing, and glared at him. He laughed, lips curving, teeth white. It was devastatingly beautiful. I found Xiaolon and borrowed 100 silver coins, her entire savings. I told her I'd repay 130 in 6 months. When selling fish, I had met a man who ran boats to the Eastern Sea to buy pearls, which he then sold in the capital. It was said one investment yielded 10 times the profit. I gave him 2 silver coins, treated him to a meal, and begged him to let me come. I left Liling with the neighbor, disguised myself, and followed his boat to the Eastern Sea. The trip took 2 months. By the time I returned, it was early autumn. The sea wind had darkened my skin, and Liling had grown taller. After everything, I had over 700 silver coins. Going to sea relied on luck. If the weather turned, the boat could capsize and I'd lose my life. This wasn't sustainable. I rented a shop with rooms in the back on East Street. Liling and I finally had our own place. The street had many tea houses and food stalls. It was perfect for me to sell dumplings. The shop I rented had been a restaurant. I just needed to scrub away the grease. Liling had school and could only help after classes. I cleaned and whitewashed the walls, replaced the door curtain, and put flowering plants on the windowsill. There were only 4 tables. If I could fill them for 3 meals, I could earn 3 silver coins a day. A few days before opening, I worried about the shop sign. The first young master, Lin Chun, arrived late one night. It had been about 4 months since we last met. He looked the same yet different. He wore a black robe with a jade inlaid belt that made his waist look impossibly small. A woman like you is truly bold. Sneaking off to sea. If that boat had capsized, you'd be gone. Didn't I say I'd handle the money? He frowned, seemingly furious. I knew my place and bowed my head. What, nothing to say. You were already ugly, but at least your skin was fair. Now you're as dark as charcoal. Who would dare marry you? That was a personal attack. That's no concern of yours, young master. My father already arranged a marriage for me. After the Lin family is safe, I'll return home and marry him, I replied stiffly. My family was so poor we couldn't even afford food. Who could I possibly be engaged to? I clearly saw his eyebrows twitch, his dark eyes staring at me. I didn't flinch. Fine. Very good. Since you're engaged, do as you please. Just protect yourself. He threw down a banknote and turned to leave. I grabbed his sleeve. You're not eating? I'll make you seafood dumplings. They're fresh. I coaxed him. He stood there for a long time before turning back to sit. When he came here, he should be able to come and go happily. Don't be angry. The shop is about to open. I won't run around anymore. It's just we don't have a sign yet. Since this is our venture, shouldn't you contribute? I brought out brush, ink and paper. Have you thought of a name? He picked up the brush. Seafood dumplings. Customers who come here are common folk. This way they'll know at a glance what I sell. He smiled, rolled up his sleeves and held the brush. His movements were fluid. I watched him write, captivated. The characters were strong and elegant. This was his true self. He seemed full of life, confident and perfect. I just stared. Is it all right? He turned and asked. His eyes seemed to hold falling stars. It's beautiful, I said, captivated. Both the person and the writing. He pressed his lips together, smiling. He ate 2 bowls of dumplings. As he was leaving, I handed back the banknote. No matter our relationship, once money was involved, feelings would never be pure. He eventually took it back. If you were a man, would you still return it? Unfortunately, I'm a woman. What I can do is limited to this. The dumpling shop's business got better and better. I couldn't handle it alone, so I hired the neighbor's wife to help. At year's end, counting my earnings, I felt renewed strength. Day after day, in the year I turned 21, the Grand Princess returned to the capital. I heard she'd be staying for a while. She took him with her. He didn't visit often, perhaps once every few months, always late at night. We barely exchanged words, but I still found myself waiting, missing him. People say beauty ruins nations, but the beautiful person is unaware. In the 12th month, His Majesty made a sacred vow. I didn't know what it was, but the emperor was devout, always seeking immortality. A vow meant a general amnesty. The Lin family was included. Only the concubine didn't make it. She caught a severe cold and passed away. Except for his absence, the year was good. Liling was now 16, graceful and lovely. Her slowness seemed to have faded. She spoke clearly and acted with purpose. She was just a bit stubborn. I told her to move home, but she refused. I was already an old maid, and she was a grown woman. She couldn't follow me around the shop. She was beautiful and should be at home learning proper accomplishments. When her eldest brother returned, he could arrange an excellent marriage for her. I had no choice but to move into their home. I gave the shop's back rooms to the neighbor's family rent-free. They could watch the shop and save money. I was a free person. To be honest, I had no real relation to the Lin family anymore. Living with Liling was one thing, but moving into their home felt awkward. However, the master and mistress treated me exactly like their own daughter, no different from Liling. The young masters treated me with respect. Gradually I adapted, calling them Uncle Lin and Auntie Lin, and the young master's second brother and third brother just like Liling did. He was gone for 6 months without a word. Uncle Lin had found a new hobby. He taught at the local school half the day and his sons the other half. Liling no longer went to the academy. She stayed home with Auntie Lin, reading and doing needlework. She could do everything now. If I prepared a good dowry for her, what kind of husband would she marry? I only hoped she could marry someone who would love and protect her, allowing her to live happily. One evening I returned home late. The atmosphere was heavy. No one would say what happened. Uncle Lin had gone to the school that morning, locked himself in his room upon returning, and hadn't come out. He hadn't eaten all day. In my heart I knew. He had found out about the first young master. It was only a matter of time. I cooked dumplings and brought a bowl to him. His room had been converted to a study. I called several times before he answered. I lit the lamp. Having not seen him for just one day, Uncle Lin seemed to have aged immensely. His hair had turned much whiter. Uncle, have you heard about the first young master? I placed the bowl before him. Uncle, are you grieving his lost reputation or pitying his suffering? My son has suffered too much. It was I who harmed him. Uncle Lin's tears streamed down. Uncle, if you pity him, don't say you harmed him. He's suffering enough. He didn't tell you precisely because he feared when you found out, you'd blame him or be tormented by guilt. No matter how much he suffered, he endured. We should all, as before, live well. We're family. Why calculate these things? We must treat him no differently. Only then will he not feel pain. I took a handkerchief and wiped his tears. But with such a reputation, how will he marry and have children? Uncle, he's an excellent man. A good wife will naturally be waiting for him. Just eat well, keep your strength, and wait to hold your grandchildren. He's so good, like the moon. His eyes even hold starlight. What good woman wouldn't be moved by him? He's suffered so much. If heaven still cherishes him, it will give him a wife who loves him with all her heart. In the 9th month, I took belongings back to my hometown. I had left at 14. 9 years had passed. I had sent money home every year. My family had bought land and built a large house. My sister was married. My brother had taken a wife. My grandparents had passed. My uncles had all married and were living comfortably. My family felt distant and I was a stranger. My brother's wife was clever, perhaps too clever, always asking how much I earned. I didn't have patience for her. My father never asked if I was living well, only said I should remember to send more money. My sister cried about being poor. My father had used the money for my uncles but was reluctant to give her anything. Silver is a good thing, but it's also not. It shines too brightly and illuminates the dark corners of people's hearts. My mother had passed away years ago, but no one told me. She had made me 2 pairs of shoes. One was red, meant to urge me to marry. The person who loved me most was gone. No one could tell me how she died. Whether they didn't want to say or didn't dare, it no longer mattered. She was gone. I stayed 3 days, left 10 silver coins, and walked away without looking back. I no longer had a home. Only when I knelt before my mother's grave did I dare cry. I knew only my mother would pity the difficult road I had walked. At the beginning of autumn, I returned to Jinghua. The chrysanthemums were in full bloom. When I opened the door, there was hot food waiting, someone waiting for me. My blanket smelled of sunshine. My life was not in vain. Mother, someone loves me. I'm living very well. In the next life, be a bird or a fish, free to fly or swim. If you want to be human again, please be my child. I will give you everything you ever wanted. Autumn passed and winter came. There was heavy snow in the northern province. Countless people and livestock froze to death. His Majesty didn't think of relief but instead built a temple. But every event has its turning point. On New Year's Eve, the Grand Princess revolted, claiming His Majesty was unfit to rule. She wanted to become empress. She beheaded her own brother. The next day, she died in her own palace. Court officials led by Grand Scholar Shun supported the Crown Prince's ascension. Within days, the emperor had changed. The common people didn't care who was emperor. As long as they could live well, they'd acknowledge anyone. The Crown Prince was different from his murdered father. Within days, he arranged disaster relief. Everyone praised his wisdom. The refugees outside the capital disappeared overnight. The new emperor was clearly no simple man. The spring wind in the 4th month was gentle. I was delivering supplies at the back door when Liling ran over crying. When I asked what was wrong, she just wept incoherently. I thought something had happened and ran home. But there was just a crowd at the door. A carriage was parked at the entrance. Several tall horses were tied to the tree. Inside, the whole family stood in the courtyard. The man seated in the center was pale and beardless, graying, wearing simple gray robes. He was much older than Uncle Lin. I knew he was a palace eunuch. Since he was in plain clothes, he didn't want attention. I pulled Liling over to bow. "Your Grace, our home is small. We've troubled you." His expression was kind, not sharp as depicted in books. He personally helped me up. "You are Mingyu?" He knew my name. "Yes, I'm Mingyu. I hear your seafood dumplings are delicious. I wonder if I might taste them today." He even knew about the dumplings. I guessed he knew the first young master. The seafood was just delivered. "It's still at the shop." "Second brother, please go get it." "Third brother and Liling, clean up the main hall for our guests." After they left, I asked what was wrong. Liling wiped her tears. His Grace said in a few days we're moving to the capital. Eldest brother is arranging everything. "Mingyu, are you coming?" I knew this day would come. I stroked her hair. "How old is your sister Mingyu?" "The only reason I haven't married is to look after you. Now your eldest brother wants to bring everyone to live with him. You should go happily. Your sister has to marry the village boy I'm engaged to. After I'm married, if you want to visit, just come back." "How far is the capital? Is this worth crying over?" I coaxed her. If there really was such a boy, that would be nice. At least I could marry him, and my heart wouldn't have these foolish hopes. "You're lying. Where's this boy?" "Mother clearly said she wanted eldest brother to marry you. If he marries you, you'll be my sister-in-law. Then you have to come to the capital with us." Only then did I learn his name was Lin Chan and his courtesy name was Zimming. If I had agreed back then, I shook my head. Even if I agreed, what then? The path of an official is difficult. After what he experienced, it will be harder. He should marry a wife who can support him. What can I give him? Besides, he doesn't treat me differently than anyone else. "Why do you want to marry me?" I looked at him. "As if to repay a debt, but I already said you don't owe me. You are unwilling to marry me because you think I'm dirty." His lashes drooped. It took me a moment to understand. "Where are you dirty? Here or here?" Perhaps the darkness gave me courage. I became bold. I kissed his eyes, then his nose, then his lips. He looked as if struck by lightning. I turned and fled, leaving my cloak behind. I wanted to slap myself. Why did I have such wicked thoughts? For the next days I stayed with Liling. I saw him a few times but didn't dare lift my head. The moment he left for court, I followed Liling to her future husband's residence and stayed 10 days. On the 10th day, the Grand Scholar's nephew came to the residence, saying Her Majesty the Empress wanted to see me. I was terrified. I was a village girl, a former servant, a cook. Why would the Empress want to see me? I wanted to bring Liling. He refused. I said I wanted to go home and change. He said it wasn't necessary. On the way I felt my legs cramping. "We haven't seen each other in years." "You're still the same," His Grace said. "So, have you married that village boy?" Clearly he knew the boy was invented, pretending to believe it to protect Lin Chan. In the past years there's been a rumor in Jinghua about a Mistress Ming in a flower alley whose scolding shakes souls. I heard that on that day the alley was packed. I recall you're also surnamed Ming and lived in that alley. Is that right? Your Grace, you're advanced in years. Don't listen to gossip. There's no such thing. His Majesty heard about this and summoned the second young master. He has an excellent memory. He recounted events without missing a word. The Empress retold it to the other consorts. Now, if any consort causes trouble, the Empress mentions summoning you. The harem is peaceful. This is your doing. Your Grace, don't scare me. I'm timid. You're taking me to the palace. Aren't they going to harm me? What are you afraid of? Minister Lin backs you. Minister Lin is backed by His Majesty. That's the same as His Majesty backing you. His Majesty was waiting in the imperial study. My legs trembled as I knelt. Rise, his voice was gentle. I stood but didn't dare lift my head. Are you not going to raise your head? It was an order. I slowly lifted my head. The emperor looked ordinary, but he had an unmistakable aura. We heard from Zimming and the eunuch that you were fair, even fairer than Zimming. But why is your face so dark? Your Majesty, I just returned from the Eastern Sea. The wind darkened me. With care I'll be fair again. Where is that village boy? Your Majesty, please forgive me. What could I say? The village boy matter hadn't fooled His Majesty. We summoned you because Zimming is 32 this year, the same age as us. Our eldest son is already 15, yet he remains alone. We hear you're now the grand aunt of the Lin family, and the household listens to you. We wish to grant him a marriage. Ask him who he fancies. Even if it's a man, we'll permit it. Also, you know his past. There's a censor who loves bringing it up. We've stopped him, but his job is to talk. We know about your scolding. Today go speak justice for Zimming. Straighten out his ways. His Majesty led me to the hall. Go invite all officials and consorts. Don't they say we're frightening? Today let them see if we're truly frightening, or if someone with just a mouth can make people die of shame. I wanted to say making people die of shame only works if they have shame. If they're shameless, nothing works. Besides, I wasn't a monkey. Having everyone watch wasn't proper. When officials could come had arrived. Some had white beards, some were younger. His Majesty sat comfortably with a fur cloak and a charcoal basin. But did he consider whether others got such treatment? What about me? I was cold too. This is the grand aunt of Lin's family. Or if she's willing, she could be the eldest daughter-in-law. Whatever she is, the Lin family deserves her. We heard someone's been dredging up Lin's past. She wanted to hear what this person says. You know Lin and I have unspeakable things between us. It's right we show him favoritism. So we agreed. The moment the emperor finished, there was silence. I gaped. Was this man so ruthless he'd gossip about himself? I wanted to know what these unspeakable things were. From the beginning, I never had a chance to say anything. Beloved Censor Zhang, how do you usually discuss Lin? Say it for us to hear. His Majesty called the censor's name. The censor stepped forward. I saw Lin standing there, head bowed, motionless. Could today's events have nothing to do with him? Censor Zhang was over 40, pale and beardless. He spoke cautiously, looking righteous. Censor Zhang, wait. Let me speak first. We shouldn't argue to death. Even if one must die, it should be meaningful. After all, His Majesty already said he and Minister Lin have unspeakable things between them. Even if you die, His Majesty won't necessarily dismiss Minister Lin. Are you planning to say His Majesty is an incompetent ruler? I traveled from the Eastern Sea to the capital, crossing almost the entire kingdom. I took boats, met fishermen, pearl divers, sailors, merchants. I took carriages, met guards, mothers traveling to visit family. I met all sorts of people. Do you know what they say when they mention His Majesty? We have an enlightened ruler. Our kingdom will surely prosper. I ask you, will anyone believe your words alone? Perhaps you'll die and no one will know. After all, not everyone can write history. Furthermore, my second brother, a scholar, is currently compiling history. I know his temperament. As long as he lives, the history must pass through his hands. You think if you force his eldest brother to be dismissed, he'll write favorably of you? If you impulsively seek death, should we save you? If we save you, we fear His Majesty won't appreciate your determination. If we don't, we couldn't bear it. Since we're on the topic, let me add more. I have a brother-in-law, a general, who's talkative. He's told me about you scolding our minister every day. First, you say he was a male consort, so how can he be a minister? Second, you say he bewitches the emperor and brings chaos. Let's talk about the first point. Which law states a former male consort cannot be an official? He achieved the highest honors. His family fell into disaster, and to save his parents and brothers, he had no choice but to submit. This is filial piety. Did he submit because he coveted power and wealth? He spent years thwarting the enemy's plot, returning peace to our kingdom. This is loyalty. Do you feel he shouldn't be alive? That he should have died to be considered clean? Where is he unclean? It's just he slept with a woman. Do you guarantee the women you've slept with only slept with you? If you found out they slept with other men, would you die of shame? If you can, then it's fine to tell him to die. You say he bewitches the emperor. Are you complimenting his handsome appearance? This point is clear. He's probably much more handsome than someone. After all, who doesn't like looking at beautiful people? I've thought about it. Perhaps at first you were jealous of his beauty. Then you became jealous of His Majesty's favor. Jealousy should be kept in the heart. Why bring it up every day? As for chaos, that's baseless. The kingdom's taxes have been waived for years, yet the treasury is full. I heard grain production has doubled. I'd like to ask, besides you, who else feels there's chaos? A censor is an official of speech. His Majesty gave you the right to speak, not to say whatever you want about whomever you want. If one doesn't understand the human heart, they're muddled. But if their mouth hasn't been shut, they're the true sinner. We common folk have a saying, words can drown a man. I wonder if you understand. I don't know where your residence is or who's in your family. When I'm free, I'll visit. I hear your household is poor, eating porridge and pickles every day. Your wife is starved to skin and bones. I'll bring food. You won't blame me, will you? I just have this bad habit. I haven't finished managing my own affairs. Yet I love managing others. You must take care of my family, and I won't dare be lazy. I'll definitely care for your family. Please say what you wish. I'm washing my ears to listen. His skin and bones wife actually had a thick waist. His son was a wastrel who caused trouble. I really did want to care for them. The censor's mouth opened and closed. He didn't utter a word for a long time. He didn't understand village folk. Two people, even exhausted, can keep arguing. If they lie down and get hungry, they'll eat and keep going for half a day. What haven't I seen? So young yet so formidable. A plump official with a long beard breathed out. Your Excellency flatters me, I replied, glancing at Lin Chan. Does he have iron in his head? Why can't he lift it? Did you all hear? Manage your own affairs. Don't overstep. Dismissed. We still have matters to discuss with Mingyu and Ziming, the emperor said. Naturally they dispersed. The consorts really didn't need to leave so quickly. I don't eat people. When it comes to scolding, we're only impressed by you. It's common, easy to understand without a dirty word. Yet you can strip another's face. In the future, if we need this skill, you must not refuse. Your Majesty jests, I said stiffly. Ziming, escort Mingyu out. The eunuch is old. We can't have him do everything. Take her to the gate and return. Minister Lin is very busy. Just send any servant. Your Grace. He's not your minister? What's wrong with him escorting you a short way? It won't delay work. Go. Since the emperor spoke, I didn't dare refuse. I resignedly followed Lin Chun. So much for the empress wanting to see me. It was all a trick. They say the emperor's heart is hard to fathom. Truly wise. The palace walls are deep, impossibly lonely. He walked ahead, his back straight. The wind fluttered his robe like a flower blooming in cold solitude. He was so good. He had a scholar's purity but wasn't conservative. He had the talent to rule, and his mind was resilient and tolerant. That censor had cursed him for years, yet he endured without a word. He was born handsome, his future boundless, a high official at 32. He was too good, so good I felt I didn't deserve him. Linchin, this was the first time I called his name. He turned and looked at me, eyes clear, lips slightly raised. What is it? Didn't you ask why I didn't agree to the marriage? It's because you're too good. So good I feel unworthy. Your wife should be a young lady skilled in arts and literature. Someone who can discuss the past and present with you. Help manage the household. But I can't do any of those. The things I can do are things you don't need. What kind of person is worthy of me? That's for me to decide. That day I returned and moved into the Lin residence. There was no point hiding. After all, he'd already said it. He would decide what kind of person he wanted to marry. I had been overthinking. The Lin household was simple. Second sister-in-law Huining managed it skillfully. The years in prison seemed to have scrubbed away Uncle Lin's ambition. He now spent days writing, painting, or walking his bird and playing chess. I had nothing to do, so I practiced calligraphy with him. I learned more and more characters. Uncle Lin was pleased. But Liling stayed at her maiden home and refused to leave. Her future husband's face grew darker by the day. Second sister-in-law and I discussed it and cleared a courtyard for him to move in as well. His expression immediately brightened. He brought fabric and jewelry, asking second sister-in-law to distribute them. The brothers had strong opinions, but who cared? Their in-law was happy. Auntie Lin's eyesight was poor. She could no longer sew. Liling and I would chat with her. When someone invited her to a banquet, she'd take both of us. Second sister-in-law would come if free, and so Minister Lin and the general would escort us there and back. Every time we went, I felt other women were wary of me, reluctant to talk. But they loved second sister-in-law. They asked about Lin Chen repeatedly, his preferences, and were solicitous toward Auntie Lin. I sat listening with Liling. Liling now had some bearing of a general's wife, but in terms of temper, she learned from me. My eldest brother's marriage, no one can decide for him. Why don't you ask His Majesty? Her face would turn serious and no one dared ask again. After a few times it wasn't interesting. I stopped going. Auntie Lin and Liling also stopped. Second sister-in-law only went once or twice for obligations. The weather turned cold. Liling was over 8 months pregnant. Uncle and Auntie Lin used the new year as an excuse to send her back. I don't know how the general coaxed her, but she only came every 5 or 6 days. When she didn't come, I was even more idle. I spent nights lighting a lamp, practicing calligraphy or sewing. I was this old, and it was the first time I'd been this idle. Today the wind and snow were fierce. Lin Chan sent word he had a banquet and wouldn't be home for dinner. Uncle and Auntie Lin went to bed early. I dismissed the serving maids. I really didn't need anyone, but Auntie Lin insisted, assigning 2 young maids to comb my hair and serve tea. The north wind howled, whistling loudly. It sounded frightening. The charcoal basin burned hot. I let my hair down, wearing only my inner robe, and sat cross-legged on the bed, reading a book of folk tales Uncle gave me. It was full of bizarre stories, extremely interesting. Before I knew it, it was past midnight. A knock came at the door. I put on a coat and opened it. It was Lin Chen's attendant. Master drank too much tonight. He wanted to bathe. He usually doesn't call for servants, but he's been in the bathhouse for over half an hour. I called several times, but he didn't answer. Finally he replied, saying he was dizzy and couldn't get out. He told me to find the grand aunt to help him. What was going on? He doesn't let others in but asks for me? I'm an unmarried maiden. What will people think? Go ask second or third brother. The master only wants you. I remembered the countless scars on his body. Fine. It's not like I haven't seen it before, and my reputation was long gone. After that incident at the palace, who would dare marry me? People already avoided me. I put on a cotton skirt and a cloak and followed to Lin Chen's courtyard. This was my first time here. It was no different from the others. The winter was bleak. Snow was ankle deep. I knocked on the bathhouse door and called his name. After a long time he called me in, but his voice was hoarse. I pushed the door open. Inside, a large bath was built in. A bench beside it held towels and soap. He was leaning against the wall, hair still pinned up. His messy clothes were piled nearby. The water had no steam, but he had his eyes closed, face flushed, lips slightly parted, panting. What's wrong? I walked over. There was a brazier, but the water was ice cold. He was bare-chested, trousers still on. Mingyu, he opened his eyes. The corners were red, eyes glazed. You've been drugged. I bit my lip. Looking like this, what else could it be? Who would harm him like this? How did he endure until now? Mingyu, he mumbled again. I looked at him. He was barely conscious. This drug was potent. If not cured in time, he could die. Or maybe a selfish thought rose in my heart. I didn't want to find an antidote for him. I loosened my cloak and sat by the pool, looking into his blurred, panicked eyes. The person who drugged him was vicious. They knew what he cared about most, and they wanted to destroy him again. If he'd lost control outside tonight, given his personality, he really might have died. It's me. I'm Mingyu. I cupped his face and kissed his lips. He was burning hot, so hot it pained my heart. I cherished him so much. Yet someone always wanted to destroy him. Mingyu, he gasped, calling my name. I pressed my lips to his, kissing him deeply. I kissed his eyes, the tip of his nose, the mole beneath his lip, his throat, the scars on his chest. He said he was dirty, but he wasn't. Not at all. He just didn't know. I felt like I died and was reborn. Feeling his release, hearing him call my name again and again. I must have been truly exhausted. I didn't want to open my eyes. I slept for a very long time. I was vaguely aware of him bathing me, helping me dress, and carrying me back to the warm bed. After that, I truly fell asleep. When Auntie Lin came, my hair was a mess, and I was asleep in his bed until midday. When she woke me, I was still dazed. He was kneeling on the floor, looking impossibly handsome and refined, a gentle look on his face. I was horrified and scrambled to kneel on the bed, but a certain part of me ached. I could only grit my teeth. I had slept with Auntie Lin's biological son. What face did I have to see her? Auntie, what happened last night was my fault. It was me. I took advantage of him while he was drunk. Hit me. It was all me. I had improper thoughts. There were only 3 of us in the room. Auntie Lin didn't speak for a long time. I peeked at Lin Chun. He was kneeling as if perfectly righteous. I had never seen him smile like that. Since you've admitted it, Mother won't say more. I'll tell your uncle to pick an auspicious day. We'll settle this marriage soon. I gaped at Auntie Lin. Her face was wreathed in a kind smile, not a trace of anger. She told me to lie down, eat my fill, then sleep. She told Lin Chun to fetch medicine, then turned and scolded him. Do you have no restraint? Tiring her out all night like this. What if she's injured? I lay down and pulled the covers over my head. What face did I have left? How did Auntie Lin know? I frantically recalled last night. The commotion wasn't quiet. He was like a man possessed, demanding my life. The next day itself was an auspicious day. No need to check. His Majesty the Emperor decreed our marriage. The wedding was set for the 10th of the 12th month. It was said to be a perfect day, suitable for all matters. Along with the decree came my dowry, and I was to be married from the general's residence. I moved into the general's residence. From engagement to wedding, there were only 12 short days. I didn't even have time to embroider my own wedding veil. I'd already lost so much face. What was the point of propriety? I heard Lin Chun came twice, but Lai Ling righteously chased him away. Auntie Lin said it was bad luck to meet before the wedding and told him to wait. He left a card. I have long admired you, but you alone did not know. To marry Mingyu, Lin Chun is mad with joy. I pressed my lips together, clutching the card tightly to my chest. On the day he came to marry me, I held my fan, sitting in the room waiting for him. Lai Ling sat beside me, sending her maid to watch the door-blocking ceremony. The general had invited many scholars from the capital to help with the challenge. Mingyu, put your fan down. Your arm will get sore. Eldest brother still has to wait before he can get in, Lai Ling said, mouthful of peanuts. I lowered the fan and stroked her head. Who would have thought one day I'd be marrying from her home? Lin Chun probably never imagined it either. If he had, he certainly would have treated the general better. Mingyu, the day you came home, my husband secretly told me that eldest brother's eyes weren't pure when he looked at you. He said one day he'd definitely marry you. I even scolded him. Now it seems he was right. Lai Ling's eyes were clear as she giggled. Before a moment passed, the maid returned, saying the door was open and the groom would be there immediately. I had come here all by myself, and now I was marrying him all by myself. Since I was marrying from the general's residence, the dowry was naturally prepared by them. I heard most was gifted by His Majesty, with more prepared by my new father and mother. Lai Ling said Lin Chun brought all his money and property deeds to the general, telling him to put it all in my dowry. That day, I married him as I had wished. He cherished me, loved me. In his entire life, he never spoke a harsh word to me, nor ever let me suffer the slightest grievance. The perspective shifts to Huaining, the second sister-in-law. When Huaining first wanted to marry into the Lin family, her father refused. Her father was only a minor official and had one daughter. Though their family was poor, they treated her like a precious pearl. The old Auntie Lin came personally, but Huining's mother didn't dare agree, saying they had to wait for her father to return. When he returned and learned of the matter, he said he definitely wouldn't choose the Lin family's second master. He said Minister Lin was too unfathomable. He looked brilliant now, but his future was uncertain. The Lin family's second master was a scholar. She had seen him on the day of the imperial parade. The phrase gentle as jade was probably coined just for him. A man like that, she never dared dream of him. A few days later, Minister Lin came personally for his brother's marriage. He spoke with her father for half a day, and her father agreed. Only later did she learn Minister Lin had promised that from his generation onward, the men of the Lin family would not take concubines. Even if they had no children, no heirs, they would absolutely not take a concubine. After marrying into the Lin family, Huining learned that married life could be so comfortable and free. Her in-laws were kind, never finding fault. Her eldest brother-in-law, Lin Chun, was a high official, but aside from being quiet, he was filial to his parents and kind to his siblings. Her younger sister-in-law, Liling, though married into a general's family, was simple and lovable. Her third brother-in-law was honest, and her husband, needless to say. But whenever Mingyu was mentioned, Auntie Lin and Liling would cry. Huining knew Mingyu was not a biological member of the Lin family. The capital was not far from Jinghua, and the Lin family's affairs were always curious because the eldest brother had refused a prominent marriage. Rumors spread he had a childhood wife. When the Lin family fell, it was she who went through hardships to raise Liling, looked after the family in prison, and after their release she rented a house and worked to support them all. When the Lin family was in trouble, no relatives helped. But when the eldest brother became minister, the rented house was swamped with people seeking favors. The two elders fell ill from anger. It was Mingyu who scolded them all away. That scolding was even recorded by storytellers. At that time she was still an unmarried girl. Her father said if that Miss Ming was really the wife the Lin family raised for the minister, then the Lin family would never suffer a loss. Second brother told her many stories about Mingyu. Huining was both admiring and envious. Every time Mingyu was mentioned, only the eldest brother said nothing. He was quiet and cold. Her father-in-law, Uncle Lin, would sigh, saying they should have tied her up when they left for the capital. Even if she didn't want to be the eldest daughter-in-law, they should have arranged a good marriage for her, made her the official grand aunt. Eldest brother would frown and say she's so ugly. Who would she marry? Just keep her in the Lin house. When he said this, his mouth would quirk into a smile, and the cold man would suddenly have a human touch. Liling would cry and scold him. Eldest brother, you're lying. How could Mingyu be ugly? You're the ugly one. She was probably the only one who dared speak to him like that. It was said the late princess had countless handsome men, but only toward him was she truly sincere. She even said if she ever ascended the throne, he would be her emperor. One could see how handsome he was. No one in the entire kingdom could compare. Yet eldest brother would smile even more brightly, asking Liling where is she beautiful? He was clearly waiting for others to praise her. Liling would crane her neck and say Mingyu has the fairest skin. I've never seen any girl whiter. She loves to laugh, and when she laughs her eyes curve like crescent moons. Her teeth are white. The phrase rosy lips, white teeth was made for her. Her hair is smooth and long. Gentlemen who came to the shop would blush just seeing her smile. You tell me, isn't she beautiful? Auntie Lin would then say Liling isn't wrong. I've never seen a girl who loves to laugh more than her. Her temperament is gentle and kind. When she gets to the capital, if she meets people once, I don't know how many gentlemen will want to marry her. And just like that, 3 years later she really returned. She was wearing a crimson cloak with a white fur hat. When she walked, her strides were wide. She looked incredibly free. It was just as Liling said. When she smiled, her eyes curved, her cheeks were full, and her skin was dazzlingly white. If she didn't say, no one would guess she was 27. Everyone said she'd gotten darker. I can't imagine how white she was before. Her temperament was truly excellent. She wasn't picky about anything. She was interesting to talk to and knowledgeable. You could talk to her for days and not feel bored. Crucially, she was also an amazing cook. Liling loved to wear her hair in a braid. Even after getting married, she never changed it. Turned out she was copying Mingyu. Mingyu was the same. Her thick dark hair in a single braid. When she turned, the braid would swing. It was beautiful. Since she returned, brother Lin Chun started coming home early every day. Usually they gathered in Auntie Lin's room to talk. Eldest brother rarely joined. He was very busy. Countless calling cards were sent to the residents daily, and he spent most of his time elsewhere. But ever since Mingyu returned after he came home, he stopped receiving guests. He wouldn't go out even when invited. Eldest brother seemed to love teasing Mingyu. She would tilt her head back, defiantly talking back. He would just watch her and smile, his eyes filled completely with her. Everyone in the family knew he wanted to marry her. Only she didn't seem to know. One day they were standing in the corridor talking for a long time. She would tilt her head up to speak. He would bow his head to listen, occasionally replying. When she was happy, she'd laugh brightly. When she was unhappy, she'd tilt her head and glare at eldest brother. He reached out and stroked her head. She immediately brightened up again, her eyes sparkling as if they held the stars. My husband, second master, watched them and soon burst into tears. He said, "Huaining, look how perfect they are for each other. Only she understands the injustices eldest brother suffered back then. If not for Mingyu, mother might have died. If mother had died, how could we have gone on living? When eldest brother was at his lowest, it was Mingyu who helped us move forward." She once spoke to eldest brother about integrity. Eldest brother told him that if not for her, he would have died long ago. After that, eldest brother married her. Every young lady in the capital was envious. Not envious she married the minister, but envious of how he treated her. When she married into the Lin family, it was both her husband's family and her maiden family. With father and mother, she acted like a spoiled daughter. But when instructing Liling, she was neither soft-spoken nor lenient. Even though she didn't do housework, no one in the family disrespected her. Everyone protected her. Eldest brother treated her as more important than his own life. He combed her hair, painted her eyebrows, held her and kissed her, never avoiding others. Those eyes couldn't hide anything. After so many years, she still laughed as brightly as the day they first met. Today Lin Chun had the day off. He didn't have to attend court. The summer sun had risen early, shining on the window wall. Lin Chun woke early, read for half an hour, taught our daughter Shuin calligraphy for half an hour, and had breakfast with father and mother, leaving Shuin with her grandparents. When he returned to the room, the person on the bed was still asleep, covers pulled over her head, only a pair of feet sticking out casually. Lin Chun walked over and gently pulled back the blanket. My hair was a mess and my face was still drowsy. He sat on the edge of the bed, gently brushing the hair from my face. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes curved with a hint of a smile, and my mouth was slightly open, perhaps finding it hard to breathe. It was as if I had grown from his heart. He couldn't seem to look at me enough. Lin Chun bent down and kissed my forehead. "Mingyu, time to get up, eat, and then you can sleep more." He wrapped his arms around me. I draped my arms over his shoulders and rested my chin on his long neck, nuzzling him. "I want to sleep a little longer," I mumbled. "You should eat breakfast first. After you're full, you can sleep, all right?" He coaxed me patiently. I shook my head and hugged him tighter. Lin Chun was helpless. His temper wasn't good, but I don't know why. When facing me, he had endless patience. He just let me lean on him. After about a quarter hour, I finally struggled to open my eyes, letting out a huge yawn. My eyes watered. I knelt before him and lifted my head to kiss the crease at the corner of his lips. I fumbled out of bed. Lin Chun had already poured water for me to wash. Perfectly warm. I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and sat in the chair watching him. He took the comb and tied my hair. His movements practiced and fluid. "Minister Lin, last night I had a dream. In the dream you told me you drugged yourself that day. Tell me, was that dream real?" I turned my head to look at him, a mischievous smile playing on my lips. His hands paused before he continued tying my hair. Although I didn't do it myself, I was at least an accomplice. That day, I went to Grand Scholar Shen's banquet. Someone in the court was dissatisfied with me and wanted to drug me to make me lose face. I knew about it in advance. I just never exposed it. I drank half that drugged cup, figuring even if you ignored me, I wouldn't die immediately. He spoke slowly, unhurriedly. I burst out laughing. This matter, if His Majesty hadn't let it slip, I probably would never have figured it out. Everyone knew I wanted to marry you, only you. You kissed me and then ran away. If I hadn't used a little scheme, I'm afraid I'd still be single now. He also laughed, a low, rich, pleasant sound. At his age, he hadn't even had time to fall for a girl before he was forced to sacrifice himself for his family, for the kingdom. His pride, his integrity had been tortured to pieces. When he was numb, she appeared unexpectedly, naturally honest, and took him by surprise. She and Liling weren't living a good life. But every time she met him, she was smiling, planning for the future. It seemed as long as she wanted it, the future would run toward her. He watched her cook, listened to her talk, and felt he too had a future. He still had a future. He had to grit his teeth and endure. She was quick-witted and incredibly brave. Nothing in this world seemed to daunt her. Only when it came to him, she always seemed unable to think straight. He had refused a marriage for her. Yet she wanted to marry someone else. How could he bear it? 3 years passed. Not long, not short. He waited. Who knew she would fall for such a small trick? Mingyu, aren't you angry? He finished tying my hair, walked in front of me and looked down at me. I was beaming, clearly smug. Why should I be angry? You did that just because you wanted to marry me. Since it was for me, of course I'm extremely happy. It's like no matter how tall you are, you'll still bow your head when you look at me. You like me. That makes me happy. I lifted my head and kissed his lips. He wrapped his arms tightly around my waist and slowly closed his eyes. In this world, no one understood him as she did. By the time they left the room, breakfast was long over, and it was almost time for lunch. Our daughter, Shuin, was kicking a shuttlecock in the courtyard. Seeing her father and mother, she said in her milky voice, "Father, you just keep spoiling mother. What wife sleeps until noon?" She looked just like her father. Though she was young and chubby, she was a little beauty, and just like her father, she rarely smiled. Hearing Shuin, I felt no shame at all. I squatted down in front of her and gently pinched her chubby cheek. "You're still young, so you don't understand the benefits of sleeping in. Mother sleeps more than father, so doesn't she look younger than him?" "Clearly, father is more handsome," Shuin said. "Just because grandma and grandpa dote on you doesn't mean you can say whatever you want to your mother. Your mother is still very young, much younger and more beautiful than your father. A father is just fooling you and you believe him. Mother, you're already in your 30s. You should grow up." Shuin seriously reached out and patted my head, then went back to her shuttlecock. I opened and closed my mouth for a long time, unable to find a rebuttal. "Of course, you are the youngest, most beautiful person in the world. No one compares to you." Lin Chen smiled, coaxing me. I nodded. I believed everything he said because I knew in his heart that is exactly who I was. In the long years of my life, I had already received the best. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? My name is Liling. That's the name my sister Mingyu gave me. My sister doesn't want me anymore. I lie on the branch of the old scholar tree in the courtyard every day waiting for her. Because the tree is very tall, I can see far away. To the east, on the other side of the wall, there is a large courtyard. In that courtyard, there's a man who practices his martial arts every day. It's very annoying. I wait for my sister and he waits for me. Other people say I'm slow-minded. Only Mingyu never scorned me. The things she said most often were, "Our Liling is so beautiful. Our Liling is so smart. Our Liling is the best girl in the world." But my sister Mingyu didn't know that she was the best girl in the world. She protected me from spring to winter, never once complaining of being tired. During the years when my father, mother, and brothers couldn't protect me, she protected me completely. One of the things she said most was, "Liling, look, no matter what, there is always hope in life." I didn't know what I was supposed to hope for. But whatever Mingyu hoped for, I hoped for too. We hoped and hoped. Father, mother, and my brothers all returned safely. I moved into a big courtyard and became the youngest sister of Minister Lin. I could have whatever I wanted. Life was clearly better, but I didn't have my sister Mingyu. She said she was going back to her village to marry a village boy. She said after she was married, she'd come back. Then she'd come and get me. But I can't find her. She never married that boy. She never came back to our shop. She doesn't want me anymore. My sister Mingyu has abandoned me. The people my eldest brother sent to find her came back and said there was no trace of her. Mother cried until she couldn't breathe, muttering and cursing Mingyu, calling her a wretch, saying she wanted to break her heart. Father sat under the eaves all day, not eating, not drinking, not saying a word. Second and third brother just frowned. I grabbed eldest brother and asked, "Where did Mingyu go? Does she not want me anymore?" Eldest brother was usually so cold and serious, and he rarely spoke. But that day he stroked my head and said, "The person she loves most is you. How could she not want you? She will come back." When he said this, his lips were even smiling. My eldest brother is incredibly formidable. I believe him. I never liked to cry, even as a child. I heard slow-minded people are like that. But after Mingyu left, I saved the pastries she loved most in the cabinet. The pastries grew moldy, but she still didn't come back. Mother had a set of ruby hairpins made for me and her. I put them on the vanity and looked at them every day, hoping one day she would suddenly return, pick one up, look at it, stroke my hair and say, "Our Liling is grown up now. She knows how to dote on her sister." The hairpins are covered in dust. I wiped them and wiped them again. She still hasn't returned. I ran crying to eldest brother's study. Spring is over. Why isn't my sister back yet? Eldest brother was painting. The person in the painting had curved eyes, a single braid falling over her chest. She was wearing her old blue cloth robe. The person in the painting was my sister Mingyu. The scholar tree in the back courtyard is very tall. You and I will bring a ladder. We'll climb that tree and wait for her. When she returns, you will see her at first glance. Eldest brother got the ladder and sat in the tree with me for a whole day. It was summer but not too hot, with a light breeze. "Eldest brother, I want to eat the dumplings Mingyu makes," I swallowed. "Me too." Eldest brother looked down, lost in thought, a faint smile on his lips. Eldest brother was very busy. He didn't have time to stay with me. I had nothing to do, so I sat in the tree by myself every day, looking far into the distance. The buildings of the capital rose layer upon layer, always blocking my view. I strained my neck, trying to see farther, ever farther. In the summer, Mingyu was supposed to sew me new cotton undergarments. Because I loved to run and sweat, I needed many to change and wash. At night, I hugged Mingyu's portrait to sleep, whispering to it, "Mingyu, I'm taller again. My undergarments are too small now. When are you coming home?" Just then, Mother came looking for me and heard me. She hugged me and cried again. Mother always said Mingyu was our family's lucky star. Without her, there would be no Lin family. Mingyu was like her own flesh and blood. They couldn't find her, and I don't know how heartbroken they were. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just waiting for her. I listened to her. I eat well and sleep well every day, and I'm happy every day. If she knows I'm being so good, she will definitely come back. Mother gave me a lot of silver pieces. I haven't spent a single one. I save them all in my money box. I take them out and count them every day. My sister Mingyu loved counting money. Every time she counted, her eyes would curve and she'd say, "Liling, look, we've saved a little more money. When you get married, I'll definitely have a huge dowry saved for you. Now I have money too. I want to save a dowry for my sister Mingyu." On the other side of the wall is a large, bright courtyard. Every morning, someone is there practicing martial arts. He's either wielding a saber or thrusting a spear. He's tall, but his face isn't fair like my brother's. He has a square jaw. He looks both proper and handsome. Very martial. When he wields his silver spear, it's like it's grown from his hand, spinning and flashing. It's beautiful. Whenever my eyes get tired from looking into the distance, I watch him. He likes to wear all black. His legs look very long. My sister Mingyu said it doesn't matter if a man is handsome. The most important thing is that his legs are long. Long legs mean he's steady and reliable. I know him. He is General Zhao. His name is Zhao Yuanshan. He's a young general who guarded the border and has just returned to the capital. His title was inherited from his uncle who revolted. He says the royal family is cold-hearted. Giving him this title was to remind him to stay vigilant at all times. I like to talk to myself. Sometimes he listens, occasionally asking a question. First he stood and listened. Later he sat on the wall. I can talk about my sister Mingyu for days straight without getting tired. He doesn't smile much and doesn't interrupt. He's an excellent listener. It's just that sometimes he seems even more simple-minded than I am. I told him how Mingyu and I lived in the warehouse by the Jinghua River. The rats there were bigger than cats. My sister Mingyu took off her shoe and threw it, but the rat grabbed her shoe and ran off. The next day she was missing a shoe. She still had to work, so she wore one of my shoes, and I wore one of hers sitting by the riverbank waiting for her. He then asked, "Why didn't you just buy a new pair?" You tell me, isn't he simple-minded? The silver my sister Mingyu had was for renting the boat. If she bought shoes, how many days would it take to earn that back? When she got off work, Mingyu squatted by the riverbank and made straw sandals. The sunset that day was different from any other. The sky was ablaze in gold, and the light shone on my sister, making her look both resolute and gentle. After she finished the sandals, she put them on and walked back and forth in front of me, saying they were even more comfortable than cloth shoes. I asked Zhao Yuanshan, General Zhao, "Have you ever worn straw sandals?" One day when Mingyu was asleep, I secretly tried them on. They weren't comfortable at all. The soles of my feet were rubbed raw. Yet my sister Mingyu wore those sandals to haul goods at the dock all day long. I don't know why, but the water in my eyes felt like it was overflowing. Unable to hold another drop, it just spilled out on and on. He sat on the wall watching me for a long time before he finally said, "Don't cry. If your sister knew you were crying, she would be heartbroken. It's just from drinking too much water." My sister Mingyu said, "If you drink too much water, it flows out of your eyes." I used my sleeve to cover my face. Mingyu said, "Those aren't tears. It's just water coming out. If you cry every day, how much heartbreak would that be?" He jumped down from the wall and stood under the tree, looking up at me. The sun was a bit bright and he squinted. "I hear the day after tomorrow is your mother's birthday." My eldest brother personally instructed the preparations. "Your eldest brother is holding a grand celebration. Do you know what your mother likes?" He clasped his hands behind his back and asked, "What does mother like?" "Mother wants my sister Mingyu to come back immediately. Can you do that?" I looked down at him, asking excitedly. He said nothing, just turned and walked away. Whether he could or not, he should have at least said something. Was he going to find my sister Mingyu? Mingyu said the emperor is the most powerful. He's the emperor's biological brother. Doesn't that make him the second most powerful? The whole world belongs to the Zhao family. Surely he can find her. On mother's birthday, the front of our house was packed with carriages. The alley was jammed. Father said His Majesty is not like my eldest brother. Our family must be careful in our words and actions. Mother said His Majesty was doing this because of eldest brother's marriage. After all the gentlemen his age already have children, but he isn't even married. This was clearly just an excuse to let eldest brother meet more young women. Whatever the reason, it didn't matter. Eldest brother went out last night and said he wouldn't be back until dark. As long as no woman met him, it was fine. I waited at the gate since early morning, waiting for that general to bring my sister Mingyu back. But only that Zhao Yuanshan General Zhao arrived late, carrying just one box. When I saw him, I rushed over and inspected him from left to right, front to back. "Don't tell me this box of yours can hold a person. Is my sister Mingyu inside?" I stared wide-eyed. Such a small box. What if she suffocates? His back stiffened. He just stood there silently. "Where is my sister Mingyu?" "I never said I could find your sister. But you never said you couldn't either." I opened the box. Inside was just a jade Buddha statue. It wasn't my sister Mingyu. It was mother's birthday, and she was still cruel enough not to return. She really didn't want us anymore. I shoved the box back at him and walked into the courtyard, not wanting to say another word. But today was mother's birthday. Mingyu had told me father and mother had been through a disaster. I couldn't make them angry or sad. I am a good girl. I listened to my sister Mingyu. I stood quietly behind mother, listening to her chat with a group of madams her age. They were talking about my 3 brothers, asking if they were engaged, and if not, their family just happened to have a virtuous and gentle daughter and so on. The question asked most was about my eldest brother. Mother said she couldn't make decisions about his marriage. When he wanted to marry and whom he wanted to marry, it had to be his own choice. So they asked mother what kind of girl eldest brother liked. Someone who loves to laugh, has a steady and generous temperament, and can endure hardship with him, mother said with a smile. Why did it sound like she was describing my sister Mingyu? Her Majesty the Empress and the Dowager Empress personally came to attend mother's birthday. This was a great honor for our family. Unexpectedly, when the banquet started at noon, His Majesty also came, with eldest brother following behind him. Eldest brother's face was cold, and his expression didn't improve just because His Majesty had arrived. This was the first time I had met His Majesty. I didn't expect him to be so talkative. The young lady from Grand Scholarshan's family, Qingwan, was my age and also unmarried. His Majesty pulled her and my eldest brother together and talked for a long time, even implying she had delayed her own marriage because she was waiting for eldest brother. In truth, that young lady was incredibly beautiful, a true beauty. But she was the type of girl completely different from the one mother described. One look and you knew she was a sheltered young lady from a prestigious family, someone who had never tasted hardship. My eldest brother probably wouldn't like her. As His Majesty talked, eldest brother's face grew darker and darker. His Majesty told eldest brother to take her for a walk. Eldest brother's face was black. He looked extremely impatient, but he still led her outside. With his temper, he would probably make her cry before it was over. The elders sat and talked. I listened for a while and felt bored, so I quietly slipped away. I was now the minister's youngest sister. Eldest brother was extremely prominent at court. Even if others looked down on me for being slow-minded, they wouldn't show it. I understood. My sister Mingyu had said it doesn't matter if others are sincere with you or not. As long as you can tell the difference yourself, that's fine. I knew they only didn't dislike me so obviously because of my eldest brother. There were many young ladies at the banquet today. Our courtyard was large, and the garden was planted with all sorts of flowers. It wasn't like in Jinghua, where we only had a small patch of dirt. Mingyu had tilled the soil there to grow vegetables. From spring to autumn our yard was always green. The flowers are beautiful, but they're not as good as the vegetables Mingyu grew. They weren't prettier than flowers, but they were practical. Now our dining table has new dishes and meat every day, but it's never as delicious as what Mingyu cooked. The young ladies had all gone to the banquet. The garden was empty. I missed Mingyu. If she were here, she would definitely grab my sleeve and tell me to go eat. Mingyu, there are so many people here today. But I can tell father, mother, and my brothers are all forcing their smiles. If you were here today, even if mother only ate a bowl of longevity noodles made by you, she would probably be overjoyed. You told me not to make father and mother sad. But why did you do it? You're so mean. Have you really decided you don't want us anymore? Father said he wants to discuss my marriage to marry me off, because I'm a grown-up young lady now. I can't live at home forever. But Mingyu, I'm scared. I'm scared that after I'm married, he won't let me come home to wait for you every day. Please come back soon, okay? I squatted in a rose bush. The red roses were in full bloom, their petals like velvet. Mingyu loved red roses. I reached out to pick one, but a thorn pricked my finger. A drop of blood oozed out. Flowers with thorns must be cut with scissors. Didn't you know? It was Zhao Yuanshan, General Zhao. His face was dark, his tone flat. I couldn't tell if he was in a good mood or bad. He squatted beside me and took out a handkerchief to wipe the blood. It's just one drop. It doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt? He wiped it very seriously, very carefully. My brothers had never been this careful with me. Don't you know I've been slow-minded since I was little? Slow-minded means stupid. Stupid people don't feel heartache or sadness, and they don't feel pain. I pulled my finger back and looked at him, replying seriously. He said nothing for a long time, then stood up and held out his hand to pull me up. His palm was calloused. He was a general, but also a general who guarded the frontier. I took his hand and stood up. My legs were a bit numb from squatting. You are not stupid, he said. I smiled at him. Mingyu said I have a dimple when I smile, which is very pretty. My sister Mingyu said so. What kind of flowers do you like? I don't like flowers. I like the vegetables my sister Mingyu grew when we lived in Jinghua. Mingyu dug up all the corners of the yard to plant vegetables. I watered them every day. I watched them sprout, grow, and finally end up as food on our table. I felt happy. I wasn't completely useless. I could help Mingyu. You like your sister Mingyu that much? You don't understand. When we were going through hard times, my sister Mingyu was as thin as a bamboo shoot. But she never let me go hungry once. In the cold winter, she would tuck my feet into her robes, holding me as we slept until dawn. No one dared to laugh at me for being slow-minded because Mingyu would fight them. Outsiders all say the Lin family suffered so much those years, but they don't know that I never knew what suffering was. He looked at me, his mouth set in a resolute line. Your sister Mingyu is very good, and you are very good too. He reached out and stroked my head. He was really tall. My 3 brothers were tall, but he was a bit taller. I had to tilt my chin up to see him clearly. Really? You are very good. Outside of my family, he was the first person to say I was also very good. Do you know Minister Lin hasn't married after all this time? My imperial brother is about to go gray over his marriage. Maybe the right girl hasn't appeared yet. After all, I've never seen eldest brother look at any girl with a kind expression except for me and Mingyu. My brother once said Minister Lin refused the marriage to the Shen family, saying he wanted to marry your sister Mingyu. But this matter was muddled by him and a palace official. Although Minister Lin didn't say it, my brother feels he holds a grudge, so he feels very guilty and is determined to find a good woman for him. He looked very serious. Was that true? I tilted my head, not understanding his meaning. My brother wants to marry my sister Mingyu. Is that it? Your imperial brother and that palace official, they really are unlikable. If Mingyu married eldest brother, she definitely wouldn't have abandoned her family and left. Zhao Yuanshan looked at me, his mouth twitching as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he said nothing. But eldest brother wanted to marry Mingyu. He liked her, but Mingyu never said, and eldest brother never mentioned it. Only mother once said she wanted him to marry her, but Mingyu refused. I asked her why. Mingyu said if you like someone, just liking them is enough. If it's mixed up with other things, it's not worth having. Could it be that eldest brother's liking wasn't just liking? If not, why wouldn't she marry him? Even though I didn't understand, eldest brother liked Mingyu, but it was only liking. Love in this world is a difficult thing, I sighed. As if you understand, he laughed. When he smiled, he didn't look so fierce anymore. He had the air of a young man. I sat in the tree waiting for Mingyu. He practiced his spear in the courtyard. When he had nothing to do, he'd sit on the wall and talk to me. I always did most of the talking. He just listened, replying occasionally. I don't know whose child it was, but outside the south wall, a boy pointed at me and said to the little girl beside him, "You must never be like her. What well-behaved girl knows how to climb trees like that?" My mother says she's a simpleton. I happen to be holding a pear. I listened to Mingyu. If anyone calls me a simpleton, I must fight back. I threw the pear, and it hit the boy squarely on the shoulder. He looked at the bruised pear on the ground, then at me. I lifted my chin, righteous, and stared back at him. It wasn't my fault. He burst into tears, wailing. The little girl saw him cry and started crying too. Immediately, a young woman ran out of the side door of Grand Scholar Shun's house. I knew almost everyone in the Shun residence, but I didn't know her. She shrieked, asking the 2 children what was wrong. The boy pointed at me, saying I had thrown a pear at him for no reason. The young woman turned and looked up at me. She wasn't pretty, small eyes, a sharp chin, and no flesh on her cheeks. Why did you throw something at my child for no reason? Whose child are you? Do you have no manners? She put her hands on her hips, looking fierce. I was stunned. She was saying I had no manners. I was raised by Mingyu. Saying I have no manners is the same as saying Mingyu didn't teach me properly. Nonsense. How could a girl raised by my sister Mingyu have no manners? I retorted. The woman didn't seem to expect me to talk back. Her mouth fell open, revealing slightly yellow teeth. The wall was close. She was really not easy to look at. I don't know why, but the woman started cursing endlessly. I grew up in the market with Mingyu. What kind of fierceness hadn't I seen? She was nothing. But I didn't want to waste words on her. I climbed down the ladder. The side door wasn't locked, just guarded by an old woman who was hard of hearing. I opened the door and peeked out. The woman was squatting, checking the boy from top to bottom, as if afraid the pear had broken him. She wasn't likable, but she was devoted to her child. Mingyu said you can't judge a person by one side. Everyone has their difficulties. If they have good points, they have bad. If they have bad points, they surely have good. Just depends on how you look at it. I'll forgive her for scolding me. Zhao Yuanshan was standing behind me. I don't know when he got there. He usually looks so serious, even a bit scary when he wasn't smiling. Why didn't you scold her back? He asked. My sister Mingyu said if someone throws mud at you, use that mud to plant a lotus. Besides, she's not all bad. I looked at him and giggled. He held out a paper-wrapped bag. I could smell it. It was the 1,000-layer pastry from his kitchens. If we're talking about deliciousness, his family's was the best I'd ever eaten. The days passed quickly. It was already autumn, and chrysanthemums were blooming everywhere. Her Majesty the Empress was hosting a chrysanthemum viewing banquet. I didn't want to go, but Mother wouldn't let me. First, the Empress had personally sent someone to our house with the invitation. Second, I was already of marriageable age. After eldest brother became minister, many people had come to our house to propose. But father would talk to them for less than 3 sentences before chasing them away. Father said they weren't sincere. If they weren't sincere, he said he would rather raise me to old age. Ever since the family's disaster, father, mother, and my brothers had become very serious about one thing in marriage: sincerity. They valued it immensely. Mother said I had to go, so I had no choice. No one from my family was going with me except Mother, but the Empress had only invited unmarried young ladies and gentlemen. Mother gave me endless instructions and then entrusted me to my 3 brothers. This autumn it had rained incessantly. I was about to grow mold, but today was a rare, beautiful day. The sky was high, the air was crisp, and the autumn wind was brisk. The Empress chose a village estate in the suburbs. I heard it was her dowry, but Mother said the Empress's background wasn't good. Perhaps His Majesty had gifted it to her. Mother said His Majesty truly had some real affection for the Empress. Mingyu said true affection is the hardest thing to find in this world. For the Empress's banquet, almost all the young ladies and gentlemen in the capital must have come. I didn't know many of them, but the estate was huge and bustling. You could see how many people were there. I didn't really like looking at flowers, but the young ladies were even more delicate than the blossoms. All kinds of bright clothes and perfumes mingled together. I sneezed several times. I didn't know anyone, and my brothers couldn't stay by my side. Second brother had a gentle temperament and was currently preparing for the exams. It was rare for him to get out. Third brother found several friends wanting to chat with them. Eldest brother, on the other hand, just greeted Her Majesty the Empress upon arriving. The Empress told him to stay for the banquet, but he said the ministry still had matters to attend to and left early. I knew he was lying through his teeth. It was a holiday. Even His Majesty was idle. What business could he have? It was just an excuse. If he had such a good excuse, why didn't he take me with him? How many times had Mother instructed him? Didn't she tell him to watch over me at all times? Eldest brother was so unreliable now. Banquets like this really weren't interesting: writing poetry, painting, playing the zither, playing chess. I didn't know how to do any of it. Only polo was a bit more interesting. A group of young ladies sat by the polo field. Tents had been set up nearby with carpets and tables laden with fruits and snacks. Today's weather was rare. I didn't want to sit in the tent. I just stood by the side watching. On the field, the game had begun. One team wore white, the other black. The man riding the reddish-brown horse looked somewhat familiar. His horse was much taller than the others. His legs were long and his face was tan. He held the reins in one hand and the mallet in the other. Every time he swung, he hit the ball. The ball flew accurately into the goal, even from far away. His arm strength and equestrian skills were both excellent. All the young ladies on the sidelines were staring at him. Zhao Yuanshan, General Zhao, really was impressive. I shielded my eyes with my hand, staring at him. His horse was strong and beautiful. You probably couldn't find a second one like it in the entire capital. I wanted to try riding too, but Mother wouldn't let me, afraid I'd fall. Zhao Yuanshan only played for half a match before leaving the field. Perhaps he felt the skill gap was too large, and it wasn't interesting. He slowly led his horse over to me. I was a bit nervous. The horse snorted in front of me. I reached out and petted its head. "You're so majestic." I walked a circle around it, inspecting it. It was chestnut-colored without a single stray hair. "Why aren't you in the tent standing out here in the sun?" Zhao Yuanshan asked. His hair was still damp. He didn't look as stern as usual. He had the air of a young man. "It's a rare sunny day. Wouldn't it be a waste not to get some sun? Does he have a name?" "Liuguang, flowing light." Liu Guang. His name is as majestic as he is. We hadn't even spoken much before the Empress sent someone to summon him. Though I was slow-minded, I could see the group of young ladies gathered around the Empress. She naturally wanted to introduce them to him. You wait here for me. I'll be right back. He handed the reins to a servant and hurried off. I looked at his retreating back and shook my head. He was still too young and naive. He didn't understand how much married women love to meddle in matchmaking. He was also a general, which naturally made him even more desirable. I don't know how many women wanted to marry into the general's residence. He told me to wait. How long would I have to wait? Of course I wouldn't listen to him. I wandered around the estate. I saw others picking chrysanthemums to put in their hair. So I picked a pink one and had a maid pin it for me. Year after year, month after month, flowers and moonlight, it all goes in circles. If my sister Mingyu were here, life would be much more interesting, because she was busy every day with endless things to do. I would sit by the stove feeding the fire. Mingyu would be cooking meat. She'd use her chopsticks to pick out a piece, blow on it and give it to me to taste. I'd say delicious and she would laugh and say, how delicious. You have to count 1, 2, 3. Just over a single piece of meat we could talk for half a day. Sometimes I'd learn a new character and teach her to write it. She'd ask about the character's origin as she learned. I'd search through books. Whether we found it or not, we could ponder it ourselves for half a day. Life just passed like that, half day by half day. Passed so quickly. More than 10 years seemed to flash by in an instant. Mother said time passes quickly only when you're living well. I was living well. Every day was good. Only Mingyu had suffered. Not only did she have to pull me forward, but she also had to protect the entire Lin family. If I had everything, I would surely want to give her the best things in the world. Liling, the young lady who called me, was the young lady from Grand Scholar Shen's family, Qingwan Lady Shen. I curtsied in return. She was slender and delicate, like a willow branch in the wind. On such a beautiful day, she was still wearing a cloak, her cheeks rosy. Just call me Qingwan. There's no need to be so polite. She walked slowly beside me. This was the first time I had spent time with another young lady. I was a bit flustered. The weather really is wonderful today. We must take the books at home out to sun. She glanced at me and said, yes, and the blankets too. The books in my house are all in my brother's studies. They will naturally take care of sunning them. I only sun my own blankets. She pressed her lips, stunned for a moment, and said nothing for a long time. Your eldest brother, what does he usually do? When she asked, she seemed a bit shy and lowered her head, revealing a long, beautiful neck. He's either meeting guests or out. I don't know what he's busy with. Sometimes he's not even home for meals. Your sister Mingyu, is she beautiful compared to me? She suddenly stopped, her expression unreadable. I didn't know why she suddenly asked that. My sister Mingyu is incredibly fair. My eldest brother is already fair, but she is much fairer than him. She loves to laugh. When she laughs, her eyes curve like crescent moons, rosy lips, white teeth. My sister Mingyu is the most beautiful person in the world. No one can compare to my sister Mingyu. Is that so? She's that beautiful. Her voice was faint, as if her earlier enthusiasm had vanished. She left as suddenly as she had arrived. I knew she wanted to marry my eldest brother, but I didn't know why she asked about my sister Mingyu. At the banquet, Her Majesty the Empress invited me to sit at her table. Everyone at the table was royalty like Zhao Yuanshan. I quietly filled my stomach. After the banquet, I waited for my brothers to take me home. Zhao Yuanshan wanted to talk to me, but every time he was about to speak, someone else would talk to him. By the time the banquet ended, we hadn't exchanged a single word. Flower viewing was exhausting. I couldn't wait for my brothers, so I just had the coachman take me home first. When I got home, I immediately tattled to father and mother. They had abandoned their little sister, running off to have fun. But mother just smiled and said, good. It's so good that they can still eat, drink, and talk with others. But someone like my eldest brother, who had never even attended a banquet, actually got blind drunk and was carried home by his servants. We didn't know about this, but when he still hadn't returned by dinner, father asked, and only then did we find out he had gotten drunk during the day. Mother was worried, so I went with her to see him. Eldest brother usually stayed in the outer courtyard. It was desolate. His room only had a bed, a table, and a chair. He was lying on the bed. He must have been truly drunk. His face was pale, his brows furrowed, and the corners of his eyes were red. I suddenly remembered how he looked on the flower boat that day. Mingyu said he was born beautiful, and because he was too beautiful he had to suffer so much. Mingyu told me to forget that day, to pretend I'd never seen him, that he was just my eldest brother, and he had always been the eldest brother who loved and protected me. Tears welled in the corners of his eyes drop by drop. I don't know why they wouldn't stop. Mother called his name several times before he opened his eyes. Mother asked him where he felt unwell. He just shook his head. After a long time he finally asked Mother. He said, "Mother, is Mingyu angry with me? Is she angry that I never once said I liked her? Is that why she wanted to leave? She's never coming back, is she?" After asking, he closed his eyes again. His expression both fragile and helpless. Today, I finally knew the person my eldest brother liked was my sister Mingyu. Mother just looked at him, tears falling, scolding him. "Why didn't you say so sooner?" After that, I argued with eldest brother all the time. I knew he liked Mingyu but wouldn't say it. I just changed my tactic and argued with him. If he had said he liked her sooner, why would she have left? I resented him. When he said my sister Mingyu was ugly and had a bad temper, I would just talk back, repeating in my heart 10,000 times, "My sister Mingyu is the most beautiful. She's fair and pretty. You're the ugly one." Every time I argued like that, eldest brother's mouth would curl, and he'd ask, "Oh, where is she beautiful?" His mouth said one thing, but his heart meant another. He explained it with exquisite subtlety. I suddenly remembered, sometimes when eldest brother visited, Mingyu would be busy in the kitchen. He would lean against the doorframe watching her, occasionally saying a word or two, his eyes and brows filled with a smile. One day, Mingyu was holding a wooden hairpin, staring at it under the lamplight. I woke up from a nap and she was still staring. I asked her what was so special about a wooden pin, but she just shook her head and said it was the most beautiful thing in the world. That happened to be a day eldest brother had visited. Thinking back now, he probably made it himself, though it was so crudely crafted. I just realized it too late. If I had known sooner, I definitely would have found a way to convince him to speak his true feelings. If I had, Mingyu wouldn't have left. Winter came early this year. It snowed heavily at the beginning of the 10th month. Even though he had been disowned, Father still wanted to go back to our hometown to visit our grandparents' graves, to burn some paper money and cold weather clothes for them. My brothers didn't have time. Mother's health wasn't good, and the weather was cold, so Father wouldn't let her go. I had nothing to do at home, so I volunteered to go with him. Our hometown was a 3-day journey from the capital, but the heavy snow made the roads difficult. It was warm in the carriage. Father told me interesting stories about his childhood in the village. I was listening intently when the carriage suddenly stopped. I lifted the curtain. An arrow was embedded in the coachman's chest. He had already fallen to the ground, blood pouring from the wound. I had never experienced anything like this. My mouth trembled as I called out, "Father." Father pulled me back into the carriage and told me to be quiet. I leaned against him, feeling scared for the first time. If I died, what would happen? I hadn't seen Mingyu again. If she knew I died, how heartbroken and guilty would she be? I didn't want to die. I didn't want her to be heartbroken or guilty. Still waiting for an invitation to come out, the man outside shouted. Father led me out of the carriage. There were many men in black, their faces covered, holding sabers and swords. Their eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. "Master Lin, go and send a message. We're taking your young lady. You go back and tell Minister Lin we'll be waiting for him at the late princess's former residence. Give him 2 days. If he doesn't come, we'll kill her." One man shoved my father away and put a blade to my throat. I was so scared my limbs went limp. I couldn't speak. One of them threw me face down onto a horse, and he whipped it. The horse's back pressed into my stomach, making me vomit. I could only watch Father's figure chasing after us grow smaller and smaller. We rode like that for a whole day. The next day we arrived outside the familiar city of Jinghua. The city gates were heavily guarded. Eldest brother must have known I was kidnapped. They found an old temple outside the city. There was only one old priest who seemed to know them. My hands and feet were tied, my eyes blindfolded, and I was thrown into a room. I was only given one bowl of water, My stomach churned and I threw it back up. I said I needed to use the latrine. I said it many times but no one paid attention. For the first time since I grew up, I wet myself. I don't know if it was from shame or fear, but I cried and cried until I fainted. When I woke up, someone was squatting in front of me. His face was already dark, but seeing me it grew even darker. Zhao Yuanshan, I called his name. He untied the ropes on my hands and feet. I saw he was holding a sword. Blood was dripping from it drop by drop. The killing intent rolling off him was terrifying. I trembled looking at him. The tears I had held back finally burst out. Zhao Yuanshan, they wouldn't let me use the latrine. I wet myself. Why didn't you come sooner? I rubbed my tears and snot onto his chest. It was already dark. I could only see many people lying scattered in the courtyard. Liu Guang, his horse, was outside the temple gate. He put me on the horse. The large cloak blocked the wind and snow. I didn't feel cold. How did you know I was here? I asked. He led the horse, his shadow long and resolute. Your father went to the palace to find your eldest brother. I happened to be there, he replied calmly. How many days has it been? Just one day. Why did it feel like so long? Why did they take me? Why did you come to save me? Your eldest brother beheaded the late princess. They wanted revenge on him. He just led the horse like that, the horse carrying me all the way back to the capital. He took me to an inn, found clothes for me to change into, and bought me food. I was too scared to sleep. He sat in a chair and stayed with me all night, but he never said why he was the one who came to save me. After I got home, I rarely went out. 1, I was timid. 2, I didn't want to see him. After all, he knew I had wet myself. What face did I have left to see him? I heard father and my brothers gave him many gifts to thank him. In the storybooks, it always says a life-saving debt must be repaid with one's body. I said this to my brothers. Their faces immediately changed. They confiscated all the storybooks in my room, burned them in front of me, and told me never to read such things again. In truth, I hadn't even finished my sentence. I was going to say that I'd probably scare him off anyway. After all, I'm this old and still wet myself. How could I dare offer myself in marriage? Winter nights were long. My storybooks were gone. I slept all day. How could I sleep at night? I put on a cloak and watched the snow under the eaves. The snow was falling heavily. There was a person standing in the courtyard. He was so bold, climbing the wall into my house. I opened my mouth to call for someone, but then I stopped. I didn't dare look at him. I lowered my head and went into my room. His footsteps were almost silent as he followed me inside. Only one candle was burning. He stood at the table looking at me. I sat on the stool, clutching my sleeves, not daring to look at him. Why are you hiding from me? His voice was extremely deep. When did I hide from you? I just didn't want to go out. Before I could finish, he suddenly squatted in front of me. The tip of his nose almost touched mine. Is it because you're embarrassed? Anyone would be like that in that situation. He smiled, his nose straight, his features sharp. Why did you climb the wall into my house? I blinked, asking him. Usually you say you're slow-minded and I don't believe it, but looking at you now, you really are. I like you. Can't you tell? He said gently. I clutched my chest. I must have misheard. He liked me. What was his intention? He was a general. He didn't need to borrow my eldest brother's influence. And while he wasn't as handsome as my brothers, he was still a true heroic man. I told him this. When he said that, he looked just like he was plotting military strategy. You are an excellent man. Why do you like me? Your sister Mingyu, didn't she ever teach you? When a gentleman says he likes you, you're supposed to lower your head shyly and ask, do you want to marry me? She never taught me that. I want to marry you. Why? Because you are simple and sincere. I tossed and turned all night. It was the first time I had ever lost sleep. And it wasn't because Mingyu was gone. When I got up the next day and saw the jade pendant carved with his name at my bedside, I truly felt it was just a dream. At noon the next day, he came to my house. He stayed in the study with my father for half a day. After he left, father called me over. Father and mother sat in their chairs, their expressions unreadable. General Zhao told your father he wants to marry you. Tell me, do you like him? Father told me to come closer, holding my hand as he asked. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to like someone. I've never liked anyone before. Father sees that he is sincere. How about you spend some time with him and see? If by then you don't like him, we'll forget it. Since father had spoken, he started visiting often. Sometimes we'd ride. Sometimes we'd walk. Sometimes I'd just watch him practice his spear. The days suddenly became faster. Only my 3 brothers never gave him a pleasant look. Second and third brother were busy preparing for the exams, but they'd occasionally find excuses to block him, not letting him in the house. Eldest brother would just give him a cold look and slam the door. He even raised several fierce dogs and tied them at various points along the wall. Father had to tell the servants to take the dogs away. I squatted under the eaves giggling watching the drama. Zhao Yuanshan's face just got darker and darker, staying that way until the end of the year. Second and third brother both took the exams. Second brother became a scholar. The family held a celebratory banquet. My brothers, though their faces were cold, finally opened the door to him for the first time. He used the wine to propose marriage and was promptly thrown out. My father asked me if I liked him. I remembered what Mingyu had said. Being with him, even if every day is just an ordinary day because he is there, those ordinary days become different. Father, I think I like him. He's patient. He chats with me, buys me food, and doesn't mind that I'm slow-minded. Father, look at him. Is he like Mingyu said? Does he have only me in his heart? Father told him to find a matchmaker. He brought His Majesty, but my eldest brother kicked His Majesty out. He only said one thing. Your Majesty, when you were meddling in other people's marriages, did you ever think that one day your family would be in laws with mine? His Majesty left dejected. I heard Mother tell Father that eldest brother still remembered how His Majesty had a palace official fabricate that nonsense, which made my sister Mingyu leave in anger. One night, Zhao Yuanshan suddenly appeared in my room again. He frowned and asked if I wanted to marry him. I nodded. Of course I did. He said if we waited for my brothers to agree, we might have to wait until Mingyu returned. But he couldn't wait. If he didn't marry, he had to go to the border. The border was unstable with frequent invasions. If he wanted my brothers to agree, there was only one way, and so he and I made the decision ourselves. At the end of the 3rd month, he found out I was pregnant. He went to the palace and knelt for 3 days, receiving a beating. My 3 brothers, left with no choice, finally agreed to the marriage, their faces cold. In the 6th month, I married into the general's residence. He said he would take me to the border. I just ate and slept all day. My temperament changed a lot. I said I wanted to go with him. I wanted to wait for Mingyu to come back. He frowned and coaxed me, saying that when we got to the border, he would definitely find her for me and have her stay with me every day. I didn't believe him. If he could really find her, why would he have endured my brother's anger for so long? At the end of the 7th month, second brother finally married. Although second sister-in-law Huaning's background wasn't high, she was an excellent woman with a gentle temperament, and she was very filial to father and mother. I heard mother say that second sister-in-law's father hadn't agreed to the marriage at first. It was eldest brother who personally went to negotiate. I knew eldest brother carried his own pain, so once second brother liked someone, he would do anything to help him. Although Zhao Yuanshan was our family's son-in-law and was treated well by father and mother, he never received a warm welcome from my brothers. When he came to our house, he would sometimes get drunk or be suppressed by eldest brother. Even though his martial arts were high, his verbal skills were no match for my brothers. He said he couldn't stand losing, so he stayed up every night reading books by lamplight. I watched his serious expression and couldn't help but smile. On the winter solstice, I ate dumplings for lunch and had just lain down when a maid from our house came. She said my sister-in-law had sent word the grandaunt had returned. For a moment, I didn't understand who this grandaunt was. The maid said, "Who else could it be? It's the sister Mingyu that your highness misses day and night." I threw on my cloak, not even bothering with shoes. When I reached my old house, I stood at the door quietly listening. The person inside was speaking. Her voice unhurried, clear and pleasant. Wasn't that my sister Mingyu? I lifted the curtain. Mingyu was sitting on the bed, looking just as she used to. It was her. It was my sister Mingyu. In the end, she couldn't bear to leave us. She had come back. That day, Zhao Yuanshan whispered to me, Eldest brother's eyes aren't pure when he looks at Mingyu. He will definitely marry her. My whole family knew. Only my sister Mingyu didn't. Mingyu married from my house. I gave her all the silver I had saved. It was the dowry I had saved for her. Zhao Yuanshan prepared 2 village estates for her. He told me to give her all the deeds. He said estates are the best dowry. If they fight in the future, she'll have a place of her own. Mingyu looked at the box of silver, stroked my hair, her eyes glistening with tears, but they didn't fall. She said my Liling is grown up. She's about to be a mother herself. Seeing you find someone who can love you and protect you, I am very happy. The general treats you with his whole heart. You just need to treat him the same way you've always treated your family. He comes from a military family. What he has seen most is the treachery of the world. Our family only sees him as a son-in-law, not a general. You two are husband and wife. You should be even more so. Just remember, no matter what, he is your husband. I understood what she meant. I also told her how His Majesty and that palace official had meddled in her and eldest brother's marriage. Mingyu narrowed her eyes and smiled. After a long time she nodded. After that, eldest brother married Mingyu as he wished. With just a wall between us, our homes gradually became livelier. My sister Mingyu pestered eldest brother to build her a swing under the scholar tree. Within 2 days the swing was up. Another day she said she wanted to build a door in the wall. That way it would be more convenient for me to visit my maiden home. Eldest brother pulled a long face and went to find Zhao Yuanshan. The 2 of them toiled for a whole day and dug a hole in the wall. Mingyu was not satisfied with the hole. Eldest brother knew how to be an official, but he didn't know how to build a door. In the end they had to ask third brother to do it. Every day Mingyu found tasks for eldest brother, and he never refused, always appearing satisfied. I asked her why she did that. Mingyu said perhaps only this way will he feel that I love him. After that I gave birth to Zhao Dao. Less than a year later, second sister-in-law gave birth to Lin Ru. Half a year after that, Mingyu gave birth to Shuyin. The house became more and more lively. Father and mother doted on their grandchildren every day. They both looked much younger. As for eldest brother, aside from attending court, he wouldn't go out if he didn't have to. He even painted my sister Mingyu's eyebrows and combed her hair. Who in the entire capital wasn't envious of my sister Mingyu? I think I finally knew what I had been waiting for. Perhaps it was just days like these. Father and mother are in good health. The children, though mischievous, are happy and carefree. My brother and my sister Mingyu found the right person. Every day is just an ordinary day. But because he is by my side, every day becomes special. I hope that all sincerity can be safely preserved. I hope that everyone you love loves you back. The story ends here for now. If this tale touched your heart or made you think, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Lotus Tale Studios to help more stories come to life. Until next time, may your days be filled with love and light.